This changes everything for the San Diego Padres. For a team that is starved constantly for pitching right now, it seems we have got ourselves an ace in the making. Let's talk about Mason Miller, everything he has done since coming over from the A's, and everything that he could accomplish for the San Diego Padres in this episode of Padres Digest. Thank you, everybody, for tuning back in. I'm Christian Pedersen, one of the two hosts here, and the one that always reminds you at the start the obligatory YouTube things I got to do or say, hey, if you want to comment, it would be fantastic. You can comment anything on this video or anything in general that you want to see a video on, and if you want to hit subscribe, you'd be my new best friend. If not, no worries. Let's talk baseball. Mason Miller. He is a San Diego Padre. He was an Oakland A. These were the headlines that we were treated to when Mason Miller first arrived as part of a trade that I think kind of sent a shock wave through Padre fandom of we got rid of top prospect Leo DeVries. We got rid of Braden Nett, another pitcher that we were all like that was catching fire. And is he the next ace for the San Diego Padres was the question being asked in return after that kind of a trade deadline deal that was maybe one of the bigger, more shocking ones throughout all of Major League Baseball. Here are the numbers. 17 2/3 innings since becoming a Padre, 2 earned runs, 34 strikeouts, 6 walks, 7 hits, and an immaculate inning. Whew. Yeah, dude's incredibly good at baseball and is sustaining that good in a kind of way that going back to that, is he the next ace? I don't see what's not ace material about this, but what to me is kind of interesting, not kind of interesting, is beyond interesting. It's the big term discussion that you have about very few players ever in a franchise is what really is this guy's role long term? Right now, he is 26, and he's been a reliever. He's fresh into baseball. He's throwing freaking Parmesan pellets. He is absolutely just he is heat with plenty of breaking stuff. Guy like that, though, there are questions about, is he a closer, or could he be moved to starter? And could he be a franchise front of the rotation ace kind of guy there? Either way, he has, multiple all-star games, big splashy career written all over what he has. But are these numbers, I'm assuming that he can maintain. Well, let's go to his full season stats. We can talk about those next. These are his stats with the Padres you're seeing right here. These are his full season stats. 1 and 2, that happens sometimes as a closer, whatever, but the sub-3 ERA, closing in on 100 strikeouts, this guy is already certifiably good in our bullpen, could be the closer. But the Padres have done it recently with Michael King in terms of bringing an ace reliever out of the pen to become a starting pitcher, and Michael King being the predecessor on this, to me, makes this conversation much more realistic, but also much more fraught with concern. And this is where I'm really curious to hear from you guys, because a lot of you see the game differently than I do, and I think that makes for better conversation about this, as opposed to me just coming on and saying, this is what the Padres need to do, this is what they need to do. So the Michael King thing, he comes from New York. Padres put him in the starting rotation, and ultimately he has succeeded. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy. And comparing one body staying healthy to another body staying healthy, it might be bad faith journalism. It might be like, oh, no, he's built different. He throws different. But with Mason Miller throwing hard, I always worry about hard-throwing guys. And with the workload change from 50-something innings, 60-something innings to 100-something innings as a starter, to sustain that while also throwing 102, I don't have enough track record of guys doing that to know whether or not that's something that an arm can sustain. So in looking at that, just in the Michael King thing, we know it is possible, but we also know it is perilously fraught with potential for injury or potential for just not having him there versus having him here to do this kind of stuff. I bring all of this up because we've got a lot of Mason Miller left in our Padres time in our Padres fandom. Here's his contract right now. Like I said, he's 26. He's making absolutely pennies on the dollar for the kind of value that he's providing for any team, but for the Padres specifically. So he's right. Team control for several more years. So the Padres have the option and ability to move him at any point. But next year, and I apologize for throwing a couple of different contract statuses at you here in rapid succession, the bullpen becomes a conversation in the offseason in a way that, we might not have the leisure of being able to dip Mason Miller's toes in starting and then also leaving. We might have to be forced into something, but either one of them could be good choices. This is Robert Suarez's contract status. Coming into next year, he's got a player opt-out for the last 2 years of his contract. It has been kind of speculatively believed by baseball pundits that he will opt out for testing free agency. Now, I have not seen any articles saying Suarez is gone the way that I have with Cease, or now seeming to come up more and more about Arraez. You get the sense sometimes that guys are gone. You get the sense that sometimes guys want to just test free agency out of the simple fact of hey, I haven't done it in a while. I want to see if I have anybody out there who's willing to pay massively for me. And then he comes. So Suarez, maybe going to be a Padre, maybe not going to be a Padre. Okay, that would open up the conversation, but we lose Jason Adam. It would open up the conversation for closer, but we lose Jason Adam to an injury that, combined with him being a free agent, I don't think he's coming back at his all-star status. That's a bad one for a guy at that point in his career. Here's Morihone, the other awesome all-star reliever that we have, the guy who maybe if Suarez was going to go, we would say, okay, Morihone next up at the closer opportunity. He's around the same. He's only a couple months different in age than Mason Miller. So the two of them together as major league closer setup guy could be an insane 1-2 combo, but Morihone as a 26-year-old headed into All-Star looking for arbitrary, we might not have him either for a while or for much longer. So it just it gets all of my juices flowing that if these guys are going to be exiting out of the bullpen, does that just mean that Miller comes in to be the Padres closer for the next 10 years and is second best closer in franchise history behind Trevor Hoffman? Do you like Morihone moving to closer, Miller moving to starter? Is that in aggregate better? Or is there something somewhere in between? It's obviously it's next season. It's the off season. There is still baseball to be played right now, but there are some interesting pieces being set up right now where the Padres in general are most likely not going to have an obscenely splashy offseason of money, and they're going to try and make some value deals on we're going to hold on to Ramon Laureano and we're going to try and get a first baseman at some value. I bet Sheets comes back. It's like I said, it's probably not going to be insanely splashy, but I do think given Michael King's injury status, there is a chance that he comes back, takes his player option. And then, if we're talking about Musgrove coming back, King, Pivetta, Miller, and Darvish, or someone else rounding out that rotation, that's an elite rotation. Or if everybody leaves, do we want to risk putting Miller at the one of a rotation that's just not going to be very good behind him? Does he get more value out of the closer? Having a guy like this is fantastic. So this is not a bad thing for the Padres, but we're kind of coming up to a crossroads this offseason that's going to change the Padres' direction one way or another, depending on how they end up using this guy. So I'm very curious what you think about where he should slot into the Padres going forward. Drop a comment on that. Let me know what you think. Also, if there's something else you want to see a video on, drop a comment on that. And like I said at the beginning, if you want to hit the subscribe button, it would be fantastically appreciated. But if not, no worries. Talk to you guys soon.